ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for UHS's March cook-along titled Super Fast Superfoods. So my name is Sarah. I'm a dietitian who works at UHS, and I also teach a course on campus. In my work at UHS, I see a lot of patients for one-on-one nutrition counseling. And so this theme was really inspired by feedback I've heard from my students in session of, oh, I don't know what to make. I'm super busy. I order out all the time because I just don't have enough time. So hopefully from today's presentation, you will learn some super quick recipes. Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lisa, and I am one of the nutrition outreach workers at UHS. I am a junior studying nutritional sciences dietetics, and I will be helping out Sarah today with any logistics.
Thank you so much. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to just unmute yourself and speak up. This is a community environment. I'd love to hear your feedback on things, or just put it in the chat and Lisa will be the moderator for that. Also, just to reiterate what I said in terms of food safety, please be careful when you're, handling knives or working with an open flame. Also make sure that you're washing your hands, your hair is tied back, all of that good stuff, so nobody gets hurt. So again, the theme is super fast superfoods. I wanted to talk a little bit about what is a superfood. So really, it doesn't have one definition. It's sort of a catchy marketing term to draw people in. And sometimes you'll see it as, some really obscure ingredient that you can only get at a specialty market, like cacao nibs or sunberries, or like things that I don't even know what they are. But the truth is lots of foods are superfoods. And to me, really all that means is it's packed with nutrients and it's accessible. The accessible part's really important because if something's not accessible, you're not going to eat it, and then it's actually providing you zero benefit. So even if cacao nibs or sunberries or whatever, gooseberries do have tons of nutrients, if you can't find it, if you can't afford it, it's not going to be super for you. So in terms of what actually is a superfood, it's most fruits and veggies, or all fruits and veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, and plant-based fats. Lots of foods fit into the category of a superfood. And then in terms of the fast component, like I mentioned, I hear so many students talking about not having enough time to cook, students and staff, right? So I feel like the UC Berkeley community is all very driven, ambitious people, perfectionists, take on a lot, multitaskers, which is great. And also sometimes they don't prioritize eating. So I just want to mention that, really trying not to skip meals is super beneficial for your health. Just like a car needs to be refueled, our body needs to be refueled. And once you start running on empty, you're not going to be able to think as well. You're not going to have as much energy. You might be hangry. And these are things we want to avoid. So really trying to find ways to eat regularly, every 3-4 hours. Most people need, but again, everyone's needs are different, is really going to help. So trying to limit skipping meals. So that's where this webinar cooking class comes in. So when you're in a pinch, when you're super busy, how can you make a nutritious meal that doesn't take a lot of time? I should mention that all of the meals that we're making are between $2 and $4 per serving. So super accessible. Most of the ingredients can be found at any regular grocery store. And yeah, they're all super nutritious. So before we get started, I'd love to do the polls. If Lisa, you could help me out so we can find out who you are, if you're cooking along with us, all that info. So yeah, I should mention again, we're going to be making 6 meals in less than 60 minutes. So each meal takes less than 10 minutes to make. All right, are we done with the polls, Lisa?
I think we're waiting on one more person.
Okay. I'm gonna wash my hands while we're waiting. All right, are we good to go? Oh, so we're viewing the results now. See that most people are undergrads, 25%. We also have some grad students, an employee, and we have a giraffe. We have about 25% are cooking along with us today, and about 25% picked up ingredients from the pantry. Awesome. So yeah, in case you didn't know, you could pick up free ingredients to cook along at home at the Basic Needs Center's food pantry. They made about 30 or 40 bags worth of ingredients. So it's first come, first serve. And if you did pick up the ingredients, you have enough to make 3 out of the 6 recipes we're going to make today. And you can just sort of observe for the other 3. All right, any questions before we get started? All right, cool. So we're gonna do the first recipe, which is the green eggs and yum breakfast sandwich. I like this sandwich because it's quick, it's packed with lots of nutrients, and it's delicious. So a lot of people don't know that you can cook eggs in the microwave. So I'm gonna be showing you how to do that today. So we'll save this later. So first what you need is a little bowl or mug, something that can go in the microwave, and some pan spray. This will help the egg not stick to the sides. You just sort of spray it down like that. And then, actually, sorry, first I'm going to toast the muffin because that's really the part that takes the longest before I start doing the egg thing. So I have these whole grain muffins, English muffins from Safeway. Really, you can do anything that you want. Like you could put it on bread, sourdough toast would be really yummy, or a pita. I think if you bought the pantry ingredients, you might be using a pita for this because I couldn't find these whole grain English muffins. But yeah, so like that. Put it in the toaster for just a few minutes. All right, so that's actually one of the main tips for how to cook on a busy schedule is try to do 2 things at once. So like put the toaster or the muffin in the toaster, and while that's cooking, do your other stuff so that you're not just like waiting around with nothing to do. Okay, so we'll crack the eggs. One or 2 eggs, whatever you prefer. And then we're just sort of going to whisk it like this. You can use an actual whisk or a fork. You do want to sort of aerate it a little bit, get some air in there, because that's what makes the egg nice and fluffy. All right, that looks pretty good to me. And then really you can put in whatever ingredients you have on hand or whatever you like. Today I'm going to be using some cheese. And some spinach. So this is what makes the eggs green. I really like the pre-washed bagged spinach because that saves time. Sometimes that's going to be more expensive than if you bought like just the bunch. So it's really a personal preference. Like if you have the finances to buy the pre-washed, it'll save you time. If that's not in your budget, then you might have to wash your ingredients. So it's picking and choosing what makes the most sense for you. some salt and pepper. You also could put other veggies in too. If you don't have spinach or you don't like spinach, like tomatoes or onions or mushrooms would be really yummy. Give it another little stir, and then you pop it in the microwave for about 2 minutes. You could check halfway through, like at 1 minute, to see if it's done. It'll depend on your microwave. All right, so while that's cooking in the microwave and the muffin is toasting, why don't we cut up our avocado? So avocado is a source of unsaturated fat, and it's really delicious. It's a great substitute for butter if you're plant-based, or just use butter if you prefer that. I believe the recipe calls for about 1/4 of an avocado, and look at that, our muffin is ready to go. But yeah, use as much or as little avocado as you want, or like I said, you could use butter instead. And just sort of spread it on there. And Lisa, while we're waiting, can you tell us the cost of this and any other nutritional benefits? What makes this a super meal?
Yeah, of course. So the total cost is actually $2.19, which is pretty crazy. And the main superfoods in this recipe would be the avocado, and along with eggs. Other ingredients include shredded cheese, spinach, and the English muffin. But the main superfood would be the avocado, which is super healthy. And if Sarah wants to add anything else.
Yeah, and eggs, you know, I feel like sometimes eggs get a bad rap, but the truth is they're a really excellent, affordable source of protein and choline and antioxidants. So really the research is a little bit outdated that says that eggs are unhealthy. Most people can have multiple eggs every day and be totally fine. All right, so this is what it looks like once it's cooked. It's a little bit hot. Burning my fingers a little bit to show you. So yeah, you just sort of like that to loosen it up. I would suggest using a different fork than you use to whisk it, because the whisked fork has raw egg on it. So it's a food safety concern to use the same fork. But then yeah, you just sort of put it like that. I like this bowl because it adds like perfect, nice size. If you don't have an English muffin, again, you could use a bagel or a pita or a toast or anything. But that's it. Should also mention that depending on your specific nutrient needs, you might need one of these, you might need 2, you might need more. Maybe you put fruit on the side. It's really based on your personal preferences and nutrition needs. So that's sort of a theme with every recipe you encounter and every food you buy that has like a serving size label listed. Those are just made up. So really listen to your body and decide, how hungry am I at this meal? Do I need 1 of these? Do I need 2? Do I need 3? Do I want fruit on the side? Check in with your intuition. Go with what makes sense for you. But there we go. Any questions on that one? All right. 1 down. Let's move on to recipe 2. Cranberry Parfait. This is one of my favorite recipes because it's so quick. This could be a breakfast, it could be a lunch, it could be a snack, depending on how large it is, what you include. But it's so simple. Literally just take your yogurt of choice. It could be Greek yogurt, it could be regular yogurt, it could be plain, it could be flavored, like vanilla is really yummy. I sometimes like to get the plain yogurt because I can reuse it in multiple recipes. So for example, you know, if I got vanilla yogurt, that would be harder to reuse in a savory recipe. But I'll show you a tip for how to use this plain Greek yogurt in one of our savory recipes later on. So yeah, just spoon the yogurt in and then add your fruit. So I really like frozen blueberries. They're much more affordable and convenient, and they last longer than fresh. So just pour out whatever your heart desires. You can also do other berries or other fruit, like frozen raspberries or strawberries or fresh, or even just cutting up. Bananas or oranges, whatever your heart desires. Some honey. If it's unsweetened yogurt, it won't taste that good without the honey. I like to stir it up. Actually, my daughter really likes this because it turns the yogurt purple. So she goes, Mama, I want the purple yogurt. And it kind of makes it a little like ice creamy when you mix the frozen berries with the yogurt. Really nice texture. That's all purple yogurt. My daughter would be happy. And then whatever toppings you want, that's something crunchy. So I love like sliced almonds. And I also like to put cereal, Cheerios if we have it, or granola, whatever sounds good to you. But that's it. Any questions on that one? Or any questions at all? My daughter's gonna like eating this for dinner. I'm gonna wash my hands because they're all sticky now. But that's another thing too. Sometimes I hear my patients get caught up in, oh, I don't like breakfast food, or I don't know what to make for dinner. I don't know what to make for a snack. Don't let, you know, traditional breakfast foods or traditional dinner foods get in the way of what you want to eat. So if you want to eat a parfait like that for dinner, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Or if you want to have waffles for dinner, again, nothing wrong with that. Listen to your body and your satisfaction factor. It's what really matters. Okay, recipe 3. This is the apple cranberry tuna salad wrap. Oh, Lisa, how much did that last recipe cost, and any superfoods we should be aware of?
Yeah, so the Parfait only costs $1.89, which is pretty crazy if you think about it compared to like other places that you might get it. And you should be aware of yogurt, which is a big secret because it's usually super high probiotics, which is very healthy for your microbiota. And also just all the fruits that you can include, like blueberries, is super healthy, like vitamins. Yeah.
Okay, so first we're going to wash and chop the apple. We're using half of an apple for this. So there's really lots of different ways to cut an apple. I like to, so you obviously want to avoid this part. So I like to kind of cut around that part. So that's there. And you know, you can also cut up there. And then I sometimes kind of nibble on it so I'm not wasting any food. But then use these pieces to cut into smaller bite-sized pieces. I like to leave the skin on because it has added fiber, but if you prefer to take it off, that's fine too. So you saw that I just cut one way and then I'm turning it and cutting another. When you leave sort of the slices all together like that, and then you just turn it, that saves time in cutting. Also, you know, the more that you cook, the more that you learn, the skills you develop, you'll be able to chop faster, you'll be able to not measure everything out in a recipe, and your cooking will get faster. So really, it's one of those, the more you practice, the better you get. All right, there's our chopped apple. Now we're gonna add some tuna. And tuna, this is one of my favorite superfoods because it's really high in protein and omega-3 fatty acids, which is great for your brain health and heart health and eye health. And it's cheap and lasts a long time. So I don't know about you, but every time I try to like buy chicken or something like that, if it's fresh and not frozen, I can't go through it by the time it goes bad. So I love an option like this. So just pour that in. Okay. And so now we're going to add more of that yogurt. So we're reusing the plain Greek yogurt, about 1/4 of a cup. Again, I don't really measure anymore. I kind of eyeball it. It doesn't really matter with things like this. If you're baking, you know, that's more of like an actual chemical reaction. That you need to be a little bit more precise with, but something like this, just sort of put it in there, taste it, see what else it needs. That's going to save you time as well. Not having to measure everything out and then not having to wash those things. So some yogurt, some honey, and some mustard. You can use regular mustard, Dijon, whatever you like. Cranberries add a nice like chewiness and also like a tart sweetness to it. The apples provide some crunch, so it's a really nice texture. And then again, salt and pepper to taste. I saw some things popping up in the chat, but I can't read them. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Lena says, I assume tuna in water is healthier than in oil, but in oil, is it more flavorful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on your personal preferences. So if you like the flavor better in oil, go for it. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Right, just mixing it, and there we go. So you can really eat this however you want. You could put it in a tortilla like we're going to and make a little wrap. You could put it inside of a pita. You could just use some crackers or chips and scoop it out. Lots of different ways to eat that. And again, this makes, you know, probably enough for 2 wraps. So if you need 2 wraps, if you're hungry, that sounds good. Oh, I was gonna say too, you could add some greens to this if you wanted. If you have the leftover spinach, why not just put a little bit of spinach on top? I still have all of this left. I could either make another wrap if I want 2 wraps today, or I can save it and actually will still be good tomorrow. And I can make another wrap then. I wouldn't pre-wrap it because then the wrap will get soggy. Oopsies. There you go. There's your little tuna wrap. Any questions about that? All right. 3 recipes down, and we're about halfway, so I'm making good time. Do a little bit of cleanup. That's another tip for cooking, is cleaning up as you go. So it's not just about the cooking or the prepping, right? It's the cleanup too. That takes time as well. So trying to, if something's cooking, if something you're waiting for something to boil, do a little bit of cleanup. That'll save you some time in the long run. Okay. All right, recipe number 4, Greek hummus pita. This is a really tasty recipe. This is probably actually our most involved because you do have to chop some things. I remember seeing some like meme that was like, I hate it when bloggers tell me it's an easy recipe and then they start chopping an onion. And I was like, oh, shoot, that's exactly what I'm doing in my cook-along. So I just want a disclaimer that, yes, you have to chop an onion in this recipe or not. If you don't feel like chopping anything, there's ways to use veggies that are pre-chopped instead. So take your red onion. I should have actually shown that you can cut it without going all the way through to the top. And so it stays together. And then you can turn it easily if you're trying to do like a mince, like a fine dice. And again, you can use as much or as little veggies as you want. You can use just the cucumber and the tomato if you don't feel like chopping everything. You could use pre-shredded carrots. You really don't have to chop anything. It's totally up to you. There's ways to alter it to make it even quicker. So I chopped it lengthwise and then I'm lining it up for myself. And then go through my knife like that. When you're chopping, you always want to use the claw with your hand that's holding the food so that your little fingies don't get caught under the knife. So I'm going to keep chopping these veggies. Lisa, anything you want to share about this recipe?
Yeah, so key ingredients to focus on are the superfoods for hummus and cherry tomatoes. And hummus is a really good plant-based protein that's full of vitamins, as well as cherry tomatoes. And the total cost for this recipe is only about $3.61.
Yeah, I think this is our most expensive recipe. The main reason is that hummus is expensive. So you can actually make your own hummus. That'll be cheaper if you have the time. Okay, so I have my veggies chopped here in the bowl. Oh, I forgot spinach. Probably should have used a bigger bowl. Switch that up. And then also another thing that makes this recipe more expensive is using pre-made dressing. I like it because it's quick, it's easy, but if I have time, I'll make my own little balsamic vinaigrette by just adding balsamic vinegar and olive oil and salt and pepper. But if you don't feel like doing that and you're willing to spend a little bit more, you can save some time that way. And then some feta cheese. So that's your little Greek salad filling. Again, this is going to make probably 2 pitas worth. So you could have 2 if you're hungry, or save part of it as a salad to have tomorrow. Another way to save time is to sort of batch cook and eat leftovers. Because if you only have to cook once, but you get to eat twice, that's a bonus. So I have this whole wheat pita. I'm going to cut it in half. Any type of flatbread would be great. But I like these because they make little pockets that you can easily stuff. Again, you could put the tuna in here as well. Oh, I forgot to add the hummus. So I'm using roasted red pepper, but any type of hummus would be great. That's a little broken. Also, if you didn't want to use hummus, if you don't feel like it needs it or it's too expensive, just like throw in some canned garbanzo beans. That can be your protein for this meal. And in terms of, what makes a balanced meal, ideally we want it to have protein and carbs and fat. So whatever foods fit into those categories, whatever are your preferences, that is the ideal. Hopefully there's some fruits and veggies in there. But again, listen to your own body and your own satisfaction factor that day, what sounds good. So there we go. Super yummy. If you're packing this for school, I would just pack the salad by itself and then pack the pitas on the side so that the pitas don't get soggy while they're sitting in your backpack. Yeah, we still have a ton left over. Any questions on that? Right. Okay, so we're moving on to our actually cooking recipes, not just prepping. So we're gonna do the ramen and then the quesadillas. And I'm gonna change my camera so you can see a little bit better. Give me a second. My stove. Okay. All right. So I love this recipe because what do you think of when you think of college students and what foods they eat? Ramen. It happens to get like a bad rap. But really that's totally not called for. You can improve the nutrients in your ramen by just using veggie broth instead of the packet. The flavoring packet in there. The packet has a lot of MSG or monosodium glutamate. It's a type of sodium. And some people have reactions to it, or some people are trying to watch their sodium. So just using veggie broth or chicken broth, any type of broth you have, is gonna cut down on that. So while that's boiling, you can either cut up some fresh veggies to add, or maybe chop up your pre-cooked protein. So maybe you have some chicken left over from yesterday that you want to chop up. Get your other ingredients ready while you're waiting for that to boil. Okay, so I'm actually going to use frozen veggies. Oh, and I want to have some soy sauce in there to give it a little Asian flavor. If you have low sodium soy sauce, that's great. Otherwise, any is fine. Yeah, so with the frozen veggies, really just choose whatever you like, but also consider that some cook faster than others. So these ones are just little chopped up carrots and peas and corn. So they're going to cook really fast. But I'm actually going to speed up the cooking by pre-cooking them in the microwave so that I don't have to wait for them to cook, wait for the water to boil. And this one you can actually steam in the bag. So it says place the frozen unopened bag this side up in the microwave. Do not pierce the bag for a couple minutes. While that's waiting to boil, just going to heat up those veggies. And then I'm also going to chop up my protein. So I'm using tofu today. I'm making this one a vegan meal, but really you can use whatever protein you have left over that you like. This one already came in cubes, but I'm just going to chop it up a little bit smaller. Sorry, I actually shouldn't have changed the camera yet. Just because I want little bite-sized pieces. I just made it like that. All right, so it looks like our water is almost boiling, and we still have a couple minutes for the veggies to cook. Uh-oh, can you guys still see me? There we go. Any questions while I'm waiting?
I think we have a comment from Lena. So Lena says they want to clarify. So MSG is not carcinogenic. I thought MSG is unhealthy.
Yeah, so the research around if it's actually carcinogenic or not is not clear. So we do see that some people have reactions. Like I know my mom really swears anytime she has an MSG, she gets a headache. And that is something that's shown in the research. Some people have reactions, but it really is actually just a type of salt. So it's not like inherently bad for you, but some people it just doesn't work for. So I would say make your own decision around whether you think it's right for you or not. Any other questions?
Oh, I had a quick question. What would you say is like the main differences between frozen and like canned mixed veggies? I would assume like added sodium or something, but is it like worse compared to frozen veggies?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to answer it in just a second once I get my noodles in the pot. So I'm just using like the traditional ramen that you get at the store. That's like $1 a pack, college favorite. And again, I'm throwing out the packet that has the MSG. I like to break mine in half, otherwise the noodles are like way too long. So let that boil for 3 minutes. I should also mention you could add some like garlic or ginger. If you had it, that would make it really yummy. Or actually, I do have some sesame oil. I'm going to add that to mine because I love the sesame oil in there. So yeah, to answer your question about, forgot that I had chili sesame oil. That would have been really good if you wanted it spicy. That was from Trader Joe's. Difference between frozen veggies and canned veggies. So sometimes canned veggies come canned in water, which means like nothing else added. And sometimes they come canned in sort of like a salty water with sodium. There's nothing wrong with that. It might make them actually taste better. It's totally an individual thing. So some people, especially those with like high blood pressure, maybe are trying to watch their sodium intake. So maybe for them, choosing the low sodium version is the smarter choice. But again, you can still have some salt, regardless of if you have high blood pressure or not. So you still want your food to taste good. If it has no salt, it's probably not going to be that palatable. Yeah, frozen veggies actually the same. Sometimes frozen veggies are just frozen and there's nothing else added. Sometimes they're frozen in like a sauce that contains extra stuff in it, like salt. So yeah, make your own decision based on that. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, Sarah.
So yeah, just about a minute and a half left on the noodles. And I'm gonna flip them over because the pan's kind of wide and shallow, so I want to make sure that they're getting all cooked. Ooh. Okay, and then I just cut open my veggies. They're all cooked, and I'm gonna add them actually once the noodles are already cooked. Since they're completely cooked now, you can see the steam coming out, and I don't want to interrupt the noodles cooking. And same with the tofu. I'll add that in a second. Yeah, so I still have about a minute left on that, and I was going to ask you all, and maybe Lisa, you want to share if anyone has any just general tips on how they eat healthy or eat well or whatever, nourish themselves in some way when they're busy. Anybody have any tips?
I could go. So recently, I guess this is more of a recent thing, but I've been really into burrito bowls, and so I find that like very quick and easy to make, as well as getting your needed like protein, veggies all in one bowl. It's just super quickly, just throw everything in, and it's super tasty. Um,
Yeah, that's delicious. I love
yeah.
having rice on hand so that I don't have to wait 30 minutes to cook my rice.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's more expensive to have that, but again, sometimes you have to weigh, the cost of something versus the time commitment. So again, personal choice. Anyone else have tips?
Lane, I had a question I'm also curious about, but could you cook ramen in the microwave?
You know what? I think you could. I know that the noodles need to boil for 3 minutes. So I think that if you just put the water in, microwaved it for a few minutes, and then maybe like till it got almost boiling, and then added the noodles and cooked it for a few more minutes, I bet that would work. I actually remember growing up, now that I'm thinking about it, I used to boil water in like a kettle and just pour it over the dry ramen and let it sit for a little bit without even boiling. And that seemed to be edible.
Oh yeah. Oh, if I could say something. Usually a lot of the Asian ramen, like the ones that are in a bowl, the instructions say that you could just simply pour boiled water in, and then you could let it sit, or you could stick it in the microwave, and or like you could put water and then stick it in the microwave for a couple of minutes and it just cooks immediately.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so it will depend on the noodle that you are using. So just follow the package instructions, but also don't be afraid to experiment. If all you have is a microwave, you can get really creative with your recipes. So here's my ramen. I have some protein and some veggies and some carbs for a balanced meal. I like to put a little sriracha on mine. So yeah, and again, you can use any protein. Eggs, you can even just crack right into the pan and scramble and they'll be yummy. But there's your healthy ramen. And I really think that frozen veggies and canned veggies are superfood because they're affordable, they're accessible, and they're veggies. They're still great for you, even if they're frozen or canned. 5 out of 6 done. Any questions? All right, so we're on to our last recipe, black bean quesadillas. These are so yummy.
Sorry, how did you cook wedges? I missed that part.
What's that?
How did you cook wedges for the previous recipe for noodles?
How did I cook the veggies?
Yeah, I missed that.
They were frozen and I just cooked them in the microwave. So you
how-
can also throw them in the pot. It just might add on a few more minutes if you don't want to also microwave them, but it's just sort of something that speeds it up. Like while the water or while the broth is boiling, you just like cook the veggies in the microwave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so for this black bean quesadilla, we're using canned black beans and canned corn. So here's our canned black beans and canned corn. And then the only thing we need to chop is the onion and the cilantro. Again, you don't have to add those if you don't want to. If you don't want to chop anything, you can just use the black beans and the corn. You could even add like a pico de gallo, like if you bought it at the store, the salsa that's already chopped up like tomatoes and onions and cilantro, and just put that in. But again, that's gonna be paying someone else to do the chopping for you. So it's weighing the cost versus the time and the effort. So again, personal choice. Oh, sorry, I didn't show the draining because I'd already used these, but I like to just like open it around like that, leave part of it on and pour out the water in the sink. Same with the beans. All right, so now we'll chop our red onion. Still have some left. That's another tip for saving money, is reusing ingredients. Actually, that's a whole tip for just cooking on a busy schedule, is actually planning out what you're going to eat. And that way you can see, oh, I'm gonna use red onion here. Oh, I can use it multiple times, so that you use the whole onion. And meal planning itself, planning out a menu for the week or for 3 days or whatever works for you, also saves time. So at first, you know, it's going to take time when you have to sit down and look at your week and plan out what makes sense for you. But in the long run, it's going to save time at the grocery store when you go there with a list and a plan. And, you know, when it's Wednesday night and you're at the end of your day and you're exhausted from a full day of school and or work, and you're like, what do I make? Oh, I'm too tired to even think about it. I'm just going to order food. But if you go, hey, like I already posted that little meal plan on my fridge, I know I'm having black bean quesadillas tonight. So I have all the stuff, I'm going to make it. All right, so now the cilantro, I'm going to just peel off a little bit. You know, if you're like a really fancy chef, you probably wouldn't use the stems, but I like to use as much as possible to get my money's worth. And I don't mind the texture of the stems, but again, personal preference. So I just washed it and I'm just sort of drying it in a towel. You don't want a ton of water in there. Make all of the filling watery. Oh, I should be heating my pan. So heat it over like medium-low heat, because you want to be able to let the cheese melt without the tortilla getting too burnt. I'm just spraying down my pan, a little pan spray. I'll let that get a little bit warm. And then chop up my cilantro. Again, rough chop is all you need to do. With a bowl. And then add in your seasoning. So you can find taco seasoning like this at most supermarkets. Trader Joe's has one, or you can make it yourself. It's basically just like salt, pepper, paprika, cumin, garlic. But it's kind of convenient to have it all in one place. And that's what really gives it like a nice smoky flavor. And let's see, and then I need the cheese. I love pre-shredded cheese. Again, if you're a super fancy chef, they'll poo-poo pre-shredded cheese, but I think it tastes exactly the same. And I don't like grating cheese. I don't like cleaning the grater. But again, if that's your prerogative, go for it. All right. So I'm just sort of mixing this together. Now I'm gonna tortilla in there. You could use regular tortillas. You could use, you know, corn, whatever you want. Whole wheat, whole grain products are gonna have more fiber and more nutrients. But if you don't like the taste, that's okay too. You can get those nutrients somewhere else. So yeah, I just try to spread it evenly like that. And I like how all the filling is mixed together, and you don't get like just one bite of cheese or one bite of beans. It's all mixed in. I got this recipe from Budget Bites, and I think it was like $2 or something per recipe. Also, obviously, if you bulk cook, you're going to save money. So you can make 10 of these, chop them up, freeze them, and heat them up in the microwave when you're ready. So yeah, so we're just gonna let that cook for a little bit so that the cheese is starting to melt and that the tortilla on the bottom is getting toasty. If you put a little lid on, that'll help the cheese melt. Okay, any questions while we're waiting for that?
I think this was brought up by Lena earlier, but they asked, is it better to rinse off like canned beans or corn with water?
Yeah, so if you rinse off the beans, it's going to remove some of the sodium. So canned beans usually have sodium in there. So again, it's up to you. If you're trying to watch your sodium, that could be helpful. If you aren't and you like the taste of the saltiness, you don't need to wash it off. Any other questions? I'm also going to show, oh, my phone's running out of batteries. Good thing we're almost done. I'm going to show, because we have time, how to make a little sauce that's really yummy on to put on your quesadilla. So back to our plain Greek yogurt. Just take a little bit out. And you could use sour cream too. This is kind of like a sour cream substitute. It will have a little bit more protein, a little bit less fat than sour cream, but if you love sour cream, that's fine. And then, yeah, I just put like sriracha or hot sauce, anything you have, and depending on how spicy you like your food, in it like that. And it makes this like really pretty color. It just kind of like makes you feel fancy. Sometimes like doing the extra step like this really does make a difference because satisfaction is important in your meal. Whereas Toby, one of our dietitians, likes to say vitamin J is a superfood too. And vitamin J is joy. So really trying to find a way to make your meal appetizing, either plating it in a pretty way or having like a little special topping, or, you know, sitting down and maybe lighting a candle or having some flowers on your table. All of those things can enhance your eating experience. I'm going to spray the top of this. I'm about to flip it. And it looks like my cheese is melted. So I'm gonna leave the top off and just let the side cook a little bit. You also could chop up some avocado if you had it left over from breakfast. That would be yummy on this, or some chopped up tomatoes. You can make a little side salad to have even more veggies. Like I love having a really simple side salad of just like pre-washed greens, like the spinach, or with like shredded carrots and a dressing. So yeah, that's really it. I'm gonna just chop this up and plate it, and that's really it. But I'm here if you have any questions. Also, please fill out the eval. I think Lisa's gonna put it in the chat. You could be entered to win $25 at Target, I believe, or another gift card. And yeah, the eval really helps us know how to improve these recipes and these you know, cook-alongs so that we meet your needs. So please tell us what you'd like to see. That makes it really helpful. Yeah, and also share your creations. If you did cook along today, we'd love to see photos of what you made. We can even post it on the Be Well Cal Insta. You can either just post it yourself and tag them, or you can send it to me. My email, I think Lisa put it in the chat, and I'll send it to our team to post it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm gonna be here just waiting for my quesadilla to cook if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Looks like it's done. right. Look at that ooey gooey yumminess. Mmm. Put a little sauce on it. Mmm. That's good. Any questions?
I was wondering if there is a way to access previous recordings or like previous recipes.
Yeah. We have a UHS Nutrition website. Lisa, if you could put that in the chat. It has all of our recipes that all of our dietitians have created for cook-alongs, as well as just other recipes. And there's also a whole tab just with videos that show the past cook-alongs as well.
Wow, that's so great.
Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for teaching us how to cook.
You're welcome.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye. Bye.
Sarah, I really want to jump into my computer screen into your kitchen so I can eat your food.
Wait, sorry, I can't hear you.
I said I would